My name's Lisa Stuckless. I'm an offering manager for Maximo. I've actually been in the Maximo portfolio for over 20 years now. I'm on my 20th year. So I started out in development, moved into, I would say, product management, product strategy, and I've been there for about 7-8 years now. So today we're going to talk about where we've been in the last year with Maximo and where we're going with Maximo into the future. We are talking roadmap, so legalese. So what you'll take away from this session. So for today's session, we want to learn about our expanding portfolio. So all of us are in the EAM, Enterprise Asset Management space, and I want to talk about how we're branding Maximo into other areas as well. We're also going to talk about our investment strategy, advancing with innovation, and of course, our roadmap. So how are we expanding our portfolio? So the top blue one, Enterprise Asset Management, that's where we are. That's what we're going to be talking about majority of the time during the next couple of days. But we're also rebranding Maximo into the Asset Performance Management space, APM. So you're going to see us talk about today in my roadmap as well. And I think there's a couple of sessions as well in the next couple of days around APM. So how can I monitor my assets, understand the health of my assets, and then start predicting when that asset is going to fail? So that's all around the APM strategy. We're also branding Maximo into MRO Inventory Optimization. This was a new acquisition last year. It was actually an Australian company, Oniqua. And it's all around spare parts optimization inventory. So it's all around understanding your critical assets and ensuring that you have the inventory there in order to maintain your facility, your corporation. So again, we're talking about the blue half today. Majority of my roadmap is around EAM, but you build out into APM and MRO Inventory Optimization. And on the bottom of that is our foundation with the IoT platform and services, et cetera, that occur with that solution. I want to start off, though, with talking about our Maximo portfolio. So I don't know if everyone in the room understands the depth and the breadth of the Maximo portfolio as a whole. So we obviously have our core Maximo industry solution, and I'm pretty sure majority of your facilities that Maximo environments that you maintain and utilize probably have either an industry solution or an add-on to it. So an industry solution in our terminology from Maximo is feature functionality that we've added to Maximo. So if you're in the oil and gas space, we have added feature functionality specifically for oil and gas. However, an add-on is across the board. It doesn't really matter what industry you're in. If you schedule work, you can utilize our scheduler product. If you utilize a GIS solution within your facility, within your corporation, you can utilize our spatial product that utilizes our GIS Esri information. So that goes across a lot of our industries. We also have, out of our oil and gas industry solution, health, safety, and environment. So talking about HSC. So again, that's something that can be utilized across industries. And then at the bottom, we have our integrations. For those that are familiar with Maximo, you know we have our integration framework. Integrating Maximo is key to a lot of your successes from a Maximo perspective. So we have integrations to our IoT platform. We have integrations to the weather. We have integrations, obviously, to MRO Inventory Optimization. We also, in the bottom half in the blue, dark blue, I should say, health, monitor, and predict. So health is an add-on, and that is a prereq to Maximo that you have to have the Maximo portfolio, just like our industry solutions and add-ons, it's a prereq for Maximo to have it. Whereas predict and monitor are integrations to Maximo. It's not a prereq that you're on a certain version release of Maximo in order to utilize predict or monitor. So that is the difference there. We have a couple in the corner that are black. So from an industry solution perspective, Maximo for civil infrastructure, this is now feature functionality that we're putting into the civil infrastructure. Bridge, tunnels, roads, that is a civil infrastructure perspective. So we're adding feature functionality to help maintain that type of infrastructure. In an add-on perspective, we have augmented collaboration. And I'm going to talk more about that as we move forward through the slide deck, but that's all around augmented reality. How can we put some of this innovation that IBM is doing a lot with their R&D, their research, bringing that into Maximo for you to utilize within your environment from a augmented reality perspective. And I'll dive deeper into that. So we also offer Maximo not only on-prem, which I'm sure quite a few have a historical version of Maximo on-prem, but we also offer Maximo from a cloud solution, a SaaS solution, so a subscription-based solution for you. We have two different types of SaaS solutions. We have our public multi-tenant cloud that just has Maximo and I believe Scheduler inside that environment, but it's a multi-tenant public environment. I would say the majority of our clients that do have a cloud-first strategy within their corporation are moving to a SaaS Flex environment. This gives you the opportunity to have multiple industry solutions, multiple add-ons. You can bring in your business partners, you can bring in their solutions, and they can help implement the product. And you have a bit more control with feature packs and upgrades and what you want into that actual solution. So those are two options for you, especially if your corporation is starting to move to a cloud-first strategy perspective. But underlying that, of course, is when you start moving your information to the cloud is security. Security is key from a cloud perspective. So we've done a lot of investment in the last couple of years from a security perspective. We are ISO SOC 1 certified. Our environments are getting SOC 2 certified right now. We are GDPR compliant. And if you're in a federal type of perspective, we also have FedRAMP certification. So a lot of investment from a secure perspective, moving your information and your data to the cloud that IBM takes extremely seriously, that is your data, that is secure, and it's in the cloud. So those are two options for you to move forward from a cloud-first perspective. What I'd like to talk about more today is, of course, our investment and the innovation that we're doing moving forward. And there's a couple of sessions that are going to deep dive into these, but I'm going to highlight them in my roadmap session. So modernization of Maximo. So we have been on this journey for the last couple of years, and we have actually what you would call our work centers. What we're looking at from a work center perspective is a persona-based or a role-based type of Maximo as we modernize that look and feel for your technicians or for your supervisor or for your inventory manager. It's very persona-based driven, that what is the day in the life of this user, and how do we compact that into a work center to make it intuitive for them to do their work. We also talk about mobility. So Anywhere is our connected, disconnected mobile product. But this is where a lot of the innovation comes into play for those technicians that are out in the field. How can we make their first-time fix rates higher? So this is where that augmented collaboration, this augmented reality comes into play. Artificial intelligence. Watson Assistant is the ability to do voice. So if you have to do hands-free from a safety perspective, if your technicians are wearing heavy gloves, how can they talk to their mobile device and give those answers back into an inspection or a work execution in order to get those results in there without having to sit there and type them in? So that's Watson Assistant from an innovation perspective. And of course, asset performance management, monitor, health, and predict. And we'll dive deeper into that as we go further into the deck here. So let's take a step back and talk about what we've delivered in the past year or so. So in July 2018, we moved to 761. So that was a major upgrade release for us from a version release perspective. And then in May of 2019, we moved to a feature pack 7611. So I'm going to take a step back, and I don't know what versions the majority of the room is. Hands up, 7.6 platform, 7.5, 1 or 2. And I'm too scared to go back further. 6, 4, wherever you guys are back there. So we used to do what you call a waterfall methodology, really how we embraced our development life cycle. So when you delivered 7.5 to 7.6, we took a couple of years, we designed, we developed, and bang, you had a big bang approach with a whole bunch of feature functionality. And then we got a lot of feedback from a lot of our users saying, but I don't want to wait 3, 4, 5 years for this feature functionality. Can I not have it sooner? So in 7.6, we went into a feature pack type of terminology. So not only would we deliver fixes for Maximo, we would also deliver new features and functionality. Now you're going to have this deck at the end. It will be sent to you guys. I have a slide on all of the different feature packs and all of the different features we actually added to each release. We added asset depreciation. We added license tracking. We added budgeting. All of these great applications we put into feature packs that we delivered for you. So when we delivered 7.6.1, we accumulated all of these feature packs that we delivered in the 7.6.0 version, and then accumulated them and brought them to you in 7.6.1. And then, of course, 7.6.1.1, we added and enhanced to that. So work centers, we introduced new work centers, and we're adding to the existing work centers, whether it's the technician or the supervisor. We're always getting feedback from you, our stakeholders, and enhancing and implementing those as we move forward. We also looked at mobility for anywhere, and I'll dive deeper into our anywhere strategy near the end of the deck. But we really took a lot of feedback from a lot of our clients that somewhat struggled with our anywhere implementation, whether it was the installs, whether it was the training, whether it was the deployment of our mobile application. And moving forward, we're really simplifying that, improving our documentation. We have multiple videos out there for you to utilize. And we also created a 3-day free online training on anywhere as well, that you can go to the Watson IoT Academy and gain this free training around our Anywhere product. Obviously, industry solutions and add-ons are continuously very important for us, and we're always looking at them to improve and get new releases out, whether it is new regulatory compliances that are out there that we need to adhere to from an industry perspective, or just feedback from you from an enhancement request perspective to put into our industry solutions and add-ons moving forward. Innovation, again, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, Watson Assistant. We also created a new licensing model in 7.6.1 called token licensing. So those in the room that are not on cloud, that are subscription-based, probably have user licensing, authorized, limited, expressed, etc. Token licensing is a little different. So from a basic high-level analogy of token licensing is, you have a bucket of tokens. Let's say you have 1,000 tokens in this bucket for your Maximo environment. You have a user that logs in, 10 tokens get extracted from that bucket. When they log off, those 10 tokens go back into that bucket for another person to utilize those tokens when they log in and out. So that's that token analogy from a licensing perspective. Is that something that you guys are interested in? Please talk to your sales force, the IBM salespeople, or your business partner, and we can start looking at a token licensing for you as well. So that is how token licensing that was introduced in 7.6.1 works. And then, of course, analytics is huge. Richard was talking about the data. Are you listening to your data? Do you understand your data? So we have optimization for our scheduling. We have Cognos from a business intelligence perspective. And from our business analyst work center, we have KPIs in the data query manager. And it's all around understanding the data. It's great that you get the data in there, but what can that data do for you? So I talked about what we did at a high level from a front-end perspective, but we also did a lot of investment into the back-end perspective. Maximo is an enterprise solution. It is a platform that you can configure, that you can integrate to, and we're always looking at ensuring that from a technical perspective, we're up to speed as well. So we did a lot around the install and deployment. Those that are in the IT department, if you're looking at containerization, that is available in this environment as well. We have a development work center that is out there that has a ton of information from a IT perspective. Those in your room that are more from an IT side. You can go out and you can look at the documentation of how to containerize Maximo. If you're looking at our REST APIs and how we have improved our REST APIs, that's another area that we've improved our documentation on, and obviously improved how we integrate and utilize REST APIs. As we move forward with Maximo and start looking at 2020, 2021, and the integrations that we have within Maximo, it's the REST APIs. That is where you're going to see a lot of our integrations and how we talk back and forth to a lot of even Maximo itself from a mobility perspective, from a work center perspective, it's all around REST API. So you're gonna see a lot of innovation and investment into that type of integration. Serviceability. So if you're looking at monitoring your Maximo environment, we have a work center called Maximo Management Interface. I believe there's 14 out-of-the-box objects that you can bring in and monitor from a dashboard type of perspective. So that is a work center that you can utilize from a Maximo serviceability perspective. And then, of course, configurability around the scripting tool, and I got a slide on that as well. So not only, like I said, are we investing from the front end, from your users of what they can do from Maximo, but we're also investing from the back end as we move forward. For those that have moved into 761, we do have free entitlement to Cognos. So you have free entitlement to a Cognos license in the 761 environment for Cognos 11.0.11. So that has the ability for you to extract your data from Maximo and bring it into Cognos and start looking at it from an analytics perspective. Those that know Pam Denny in the room or have been introduced to her, she has a long history in Maximo reporting and Maximo analytics. And she was key in making a set of videos. I think there's like 9 or 10 videos. They're each about 5 to 10 minutes long that walks you through basically extracting your data out of Maximo, bringing it into Cognos, and actually utilizing the Cognos tools to make dashboards and storyboards in order for you to understand and reflect the information that you have for your Maximo data. So if you were to go in and just Google Maximo 761 Analytics or Cognos Analytics, you'll see a whole bunch of YouTube extractions from Pam that she has set up for you to follow. There's also a free trial that you can utilize right now if you wanted to. Extract your data out of Maximo and upload it to the cloud with their free trial, and you can utilize it in I think Louis did one, half hour yesterday or on Monday that went with another user group that we did. Within a half hour, he had the Maximo data extracted, imported into Cognos, and drilled down and could see his data and what the data was doing. That's how quickly it is, because Cognos is very much a natural language. You don't have to be an IT person or a developer or a data scientist with Cognos 11. It is very much a natural language, drag and drop, user-friendly type of tool that you can utilize right out of the box. So I highly recommend that. So let's talk about modernization of Maximo and the Maximo work centers. And you're going to see a long stream of roadmap for Maximo that this is where we're moving towards when we start talking about the future of Maximo and modernizing Maximo for your users. And it's all around the work centers. It's all around simplifying it, making them intuitive, making them basically responsive. So it doesn't matter if you're on a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop, they will respond screen-wise to what you're doing. And of course, those that are familiar with Maximo and the power of Maximo, it's all about configurability, all about understanding what it is that your business process is, what your fields are, how you want it to look and feel for your environment. How do I make these work centers now configurable moving forward in that same type of application? So I'm going to start talking about our work centers and where we're moving with them. So a couple of years ago, I would say our phase one with work centers was around work management, that work technician, work supervisor, service requester, and we created a new, I would say, new application for Maximo called Inspections. So with that phase one work management type of work centers, service requesters and inspections really took off. This is the area that really took off for us. So service requester, if you're familiar with Maximo, not a very intuitive type of tool unless you went in and configured it to make it intuitive. But service requester now is from it doesn't matter if you're trained or not trained within Maximo, you log in and it's a wizard-like type of control to put in that service request, that ticket. I have an issue with heating, or I have an issue with lighting. You hit the heating button, it asks you a next set of questions. Too cold, too hot, you click it. Where's your location, where's your asset? You can barcode scan it, and then away you go and you put in your service request. So you make that template based upon what the questions are that you want in your environment for them to answer, and then that moves forward. Very intuitive, very user-friendly, and that's really taken off with a lot of our users. The other service work center was inspections. We really didn't have a great way of doing inspections within Maximo itself. We took a lot of feedback from you, our users, across the world, and a lot of them were very much paper-based, that you would go around on a clipboard, you would basically answer these inspections, you would sign off on them, and then they would go into a filing cabinet to never be seen again. What we did was take a lot of these paper type of inspections and determined, how can I make them electronic? You have a certain set that are grouped. You have a certain set that if I answered yes to this, then I have to open up another set of questions and answer these questions. How can I make them, I want meter readings, I want yes or no, I want a comment, I want a characteristic, I want a value. How do I make it that you can create whatever type of inspection it is that you want? How can I bring them in? So that was the inspection area. So we did that. And then in phase two that we came out with 7611, we went from work management to supply chain. So phase two was all around supply chain. So we created an inventory manager work center. And I'll dive deeper into the 7611 work inventory manager work center, but that's where we're going. What we're doing is taking areas and phasing them in as to what is the role and the requests that we're getting in from you, our users, in order to modernize Maximo. So those that haven't seen work centers before, this is a example of the supervisor screen. And this is what I mean when I say it's very much a day in the life of. If I'm a work supervisor, I need to assign work, I need to approve work, I need to monitor work, I need to close out work. Here's my set of queries that show you, they highlight where it is. Priorities are rows to the top depending on your query. And then if you need more information, you can dive deeper into the information itself. So the look and feel, for those that are very familiar with work order tracking, totally different look and feel, very much written towards a supervisor and what the day in the life of the supervisor is. So that's what we're looking at from a work center example. So going back to inspections, there's two sets around inspections. There's the manage the form. So who is that person that actually creates those inspections? It's taking that paper form-based inspection and trying to build it into an electronic inspection. So that's how you manage the forms. They're under revision control, and you can do a lot with them. Once they're set to active, then it's that person that actually does that inspection, whether it's an inspector or a technician, who actually will then follow that inspection across the board. And they can be brought into job plans, PMs, triggered when that that PM is triggered and brought into your work order. So it can be part of the work order that then is assigned to your technician or then is assigned to that inspector. But again, it's going back to that wizard-like feel from an inspection perspective, that it will show you your questions, it will highlight the questions that were answered. If there's required questions, then you can flick a switch and only answer the required questions. You now have the ability to do color to them, do icons against them, depending on the status or the answer that you reply. Again, if you answer yes to one question, where's the set of next questions that come up? So very much intuitive. We've also brought into inspections, and this is where you're going to see voice. This is the first application where voice was introduced. So if you have an inspector that's on a ladder and can't really type data while he's doing his inspections, it will ask you the inspection question, and you can answer that inspection question without actually typing into your mobile device. So that's where that voice comes into play from an inspection perspective. So that's conduct an inspection. And then, of course, the Manage Inventory Work Center. We get many, many RFEs, requests for enhancements. So we took a look at all of the requests for enhancements we had around inventory management. And we really basically put them into two buckets. How can we make it easier to set up? And how can it make it faster from a transaction perspective? This is where a lot of the RFEs ended up in these type of buckets. So, how can I make it easier to add storerooms or create bins or define units of measures or create initial balances? How can I make that easier for that inventory manager to set it up? And then once they're set up, how can I make it easier for me to update balances, do issues and transfers, do physical counts, do bulk edits? How do I make that easier from an inventory management perspective? So that's how we built out the Inventory Manager Work Center. So how do I create, edit, issue, transfer? How can I add or edit? Intuitively, how can I do physical counts? I got my tablet up. How can I just go down a stream of assets and do my physical counts on them? It's just really all about making it easier to set up and make it that faster transaction, intuitive transactions for you to move forward with your next role. And then, of course, summary information. Whether it's the item storerooms, the balances, the bins, issuing items, what your business is doing. So a lot around that inventory summary information. And as we move forward with the next release of Maximo and whatnot, you're going to see more and more around work management work centers and more around supply chain work centers and improvements to them. So that's where we're going from a work center perspective. Service requests. As I said, this was one of the areas that really took off from a work center perspective because it was very intuitive. And as you can see from the screens here, what I said, that you can just click on, let's say, heating and air. That takes you to another set of questions, and then you move on from there. But we also have, it was out for a couple of years, and we're always getting enhancements from the users that are utilizing it. I'd like to see this, or I'd like it to do that. So we did more around category searching, affected users, enhanced barcode scanning, configurationing of it, and a triage. So it's not only the user that enters in the service request, but that back-end office person or supervisor that gets all of those service requests. How do we make their life easier to understand how to triage those service requests that are coming in, get them assigned to somebody, or is 10 people doing the same service request? It's duplicated coming in because you do have an issue with heating and cooling or whatnot, and more people are entering in. So how can I start triaging that? So that's what we've improved there as well. Improve code scanning. So this was an area to ensure from a service request perspective, if you do barcode scanning and you have that around your facilities, then how is it that when a person that really has no idea what this asset number is, what this location hierarchy is, but how do I put a service request in there that you know exactly what that issue is? So barcode scanning is one of the ways to do that. So we really improved barcode scanning from a service request perspective. And then again, that processing page enhancements, that if you're reviewing these service requests that come in, how do I start triaging them? How do I start assigning them? How do I start closing them out or creating work orders from those tickets? So that's all around the triage area. Dynamic job plans was something that we introduced in 7611 as well. So when I talk about dynamic job plans, this analogy that I'm going to give you is more around linear assets, because it really came out of applying it to a linear asset itself. If I have a road and that road is 50 kilometers, perhaps the first 10 kilometers are concrete with a concrete medium with different type of fencing and different type of vegetation, whereas the next 40 kilometers I have asphalt, I have different type of fencing, different type of mediums, etc. So even though it's a 50-kilometer road, that's my asset that I need to maintain, because I have to go out there and do, let's say, 20 kilometers of work. What is my materials? What are my tools? What are the services, the crews that I need in order to utilize that? So it's very much a dynamic job plan for this asset, but depending on what the work is that you're doing, your job plan is dynamic. We have also created a simulation that you don't actually, that you can basically, as you're making up these dynamic job plans, you can simulate what is a job plan for 15 kilometers, what is a job plan for 40 kilometers, and you can see it before it actually gets built out to a work order. You can simulate it while you're creating these job plans in order to do the work. So that's what we built into 7611 as well. And then, of course, scripting. In previous releases with scripting, and those that did auto-scripting within Maximo, a lot of them went to a third-party tool, did all of their scripting, copy and pasted it, and then brought it back into Maximo because our editor was not very good. So we improved that tremendously in 7611 and made it a true scripting editor with color, indentation, shortcuts, etc., that you can actually look at your scripting properly within Maximo itself. So we've definitely improved that in our follow-up 761 feature pack. MRO inventory optimization. Like I said, this is all of that around spare parts inventory and understanding what your critical assets are, what your risk is around your inventory. What are your assets if you do multi-site inventory, multi-warehouse inventory? Do you have a ton of one asset and absolutely none of anything else, and it takes 2 days for that asset to come in if you have an issue? So it's all around looking at your inventory and optimizing it for your business. One area I also want to look at here is that journey to predictive. So now I'm going to start talking about asset performance management, and it is a journey because it's all around the quality of your data. You need to understand what that data is in order for you to actually get to the end result of predicting when that asset is going to fail. And it's all around your data and ensuring that your quality of data is key there. So manage is enterprise asset management. That's where your data is held. That's where your data that your end users enter in your data. That's where your meter readings go into. That is where your sensor data may go into. That is all around managing and understanding that information. To monitoring sensor data, to now the health of your asset. So the health of your asset is all around looking at your assets from a reliability perspective, ensuring that they're in good health. So depending on what they are and actually as you monitor them, is it repair or replace type of concept for those assets and the health of those assets based upon its life, based upon its condition, etc. All the way to predict. Can I, based upon all of this information that I have out there, can I now start predicting when that asset is going to fail? I have a PM for that every 6 months. I'm predicting it's going to fail in 4 months. I want to be reactive instead of proactive instead of reactive around the prediction of that failure of that asset. So that's your journey, and that's all around the APM aspect of Maximo. Monitor health, and then we also have certain modules from an E&U perspective around transformers, I believe, etc., around the predicting of that. Let's talk Maximo Mobile. We see basically a huge mobile first strategy as well, that a lot of you are moving into a mobile first strategy for a lot of your users that are out there, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet. Mobile is key moving forward, not only for your users, but for us as well from a modernization perspective. So let's talk about Maximo Mobile. Again, your business is continuously evolving. Assets are being complex, they're remote, you need to understand them, and then of course the workforce. How from a mobility perspective can you ensure that your workforce out there is trained and knowledgeable in order to fix those assets when they're out in the field? So from a Maximo mobility perspective, I'm sure there must be some people that utilize our Everyplace application. That was something that was built, I want to say, 8-9 years ago. It's part of core Maximo. It's always connected type of application. You had to go into App Designer and say, this is my screen size of my tablet, and gave that to your users. So that's Everyplace. That was a technology that was out there. Workforce Assistant, I'm going to talk about in the next couple of slides, but that's all around artificial intelligence and augmented reality and that technician that's out there getting help in order to fix that asset. Anywhere, whether you're connected or disconnected, that is our mobile product. And of course, work centers, combining that with a modernization look and feel from a mobility perspective. So Workforce Assistant is around augmented collaboration. This is augmented reality. And then Work Assist is all around artificial intelligence, and I'll dive deeper into the differences of those. And then Maximo Worker Insights is all around ensuring that the safety of your employees are there and monitoring them while they're out in the field from a technician perspective to ensure that they're safe. So let's go into augmented reality, AR, for your technicians. This is all about that technician that's out there fixing that asset. And as your workforces retire and you get new and new technicians that are out there doing the work, they may not have a 20, 30-year history around these assets in order to resolve the issues that are there. So how can I bring in an expert's advice to that technician that's out in the field in order for them to resolve the issue and have that first time fix rate out there instead of going back and forth 2 or 3 times in order to resolve the issue? So this is where augmented reality comes in. So that technician can go out and seek an expert. That expert is yours to define. It could be somebody that knows pumps really, really well. They can be 20 kilometers away. They could be 1,000 kilometers away. What is that expert that can help that technician in pumps, because they know how to resolve pumps, in order to do the work? So the technician's out there, he has an issue, he contacts this expert, and the expert's available to give him help. So he sends pictures and images to this expert. And basically this expert will go in and will take these pictures, these photographs, and they will annotate them. So it now becomes an augmented reality 3D type of video of what this technician needs to do in order to fix this asset. Step 1, step 2, step 3, in order to resolve it. This now becomes part of your knowledge library for that asset. So this technician resolves this issue utilizing this augmented reality. It becomes part of your library, and now you can start building up your library. A lot of our clients are going to look at this as a training module for a lot of their new technicians in order to fix this application. But this feeds directly into artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence now is taking all of this knowledge. So whether it's your manual specifications, your job plans, your work order history, that augmented reality videotape that you just created, and you build up this knowledge in order for it to know how to resolve an asset's issue. So that is artificial intelligence. So that technician is out there and he's basically going, I don't know how to fix this. He's gonna go seek artificial intelligence. It's gonna come back and say, I have an issue with this pump. I'm gonna give you an 80% probability that these are the steps for you in order to resolve the issue. it actually resolves the issue. He works through them, thumbs up. Next time somebody has that issue, it's an 85% probability that these are the steps to do it. It's always learning. It's always about that knowledge center. So again, you feed it the data, you refine the model, it triggers it, you get recommendations, and then it gives you the steps that are doing it. I'm gonna have to speed up here because I'm getting the 5-minute label here. So worker insights here. It's all around safety. It's all around the wearables for your employees that are out there and making sure that they're safe. And we have an integration to our health, safety, and environment that if an incident does occur, it's triggered and you can follow that process throughout. And I believe Russell's gonna be talking about that, so I'll leave that up to him. But I wanna talk about anywhere. Anywhere is our connected and disconnected environment. And we have a strategic direction for anywhere as we move forward. We're looking at simplifying it. How do we grow it? And how do we preserve your investment? And this is really the foundation that when we start talking about work centers and we start talking about anywhere, it's the convergence of the two as we move forward from a mobility perspective. So simplifying from a strategic direction. A lot of feedback from a lot of our clients. How can we make it easier to install, deploy, build? What we're doing as we move forward with anywhere is removing that mobile first server dependency. So we're removing that extra layer of complexity as we move forward and just giving you a Cordova app shell for anywhere. And with that, we're also retaining your investment. So if you have anywhere and you have configuration and customization and the apps that are currently out there, they are going to work on this Cordova shell without the mobile first application. So don't worry about that. We are retaining your investment that you've had and continuing on that anywhere path as we move forward from a technology perspective. And of course, growth. This gives us the opportunity with feedback and be quicker and more nimble that if you have a request for WebSphere 9 or SQL Server, we can deliver that a lot quicker. We were held back often from the mobile first requirements that we couldn't be nimble enough from an anywhere mobility perspective. So this really gives us the ability to move from that perspective. And so what's next from an anywhere and work center perspective as we move forward with our 2020-2021 roadmap? You're going to see us move into the convergence of this technology from a configurability perspective, from an offline capability perspective. So you're really going to see that mobility being part of our modernization and ensuring that it's connected or disconnected depending on your use cases. So Maximo Roadmap perspective. As I was talking about, we delivered our 7611 in May. You're gonna see another feature pack around, I would say, Q3 of 2020. And then of course, industry solutions and add-ons, and you're going to see a couple of that mobile first removal dependency for anywhere. You're gonna see come out in Q1 of 2020, Q1 of 2020, and then of course other releases as we move forward with that convergence of the technology from a UI framework perspective. This gives you a highlight of everything that's going on with the Q3 2020 feature pack. A lot of currency updates. As we move forward with Maximo, we have to make sure the middleware is there because the middleware vendors themselves are no longer supporting certain platforms. So we have to make sure that we are always up to date, whether it's Oracle 19c, SQL Server, I think 2017. I think we actually got 2019 is probably going to be in there as well for our 7612 release. BIM enhancements, and then you'll see all of the enhancements there around work centers and what we're adding to the next feature pack as well. So 3 takeaways I want to make sure. Continued investment in Maximo, expanding beyond EAM and modernization and innovation around the Maximo perspective. And with that, I don't know if I have time for questions or not. You can, 1 minute? I have 1 minute for a question. Any questions at all? No? Okay, well thank you very much. This will definitely be part of your package that you'll be able to have after the fact.